Okay, guys, welcome to the Firework Show. This is episode number 9 with Tami Jaffe. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Good. So, Tami, today you at home that are watching the show, you might be interested because Tami came from a reality where she was doing really well in corporate, but she was not so happy about what she was doing. And so she's going to share with us how she transitioned from that to owning her own business and being super happy and passionate about what she does today. So, Tami, thank you so much for being here with me today, sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's really nice. So, guys, for you at home today, you're gonna learn. You might be asking yourselves like, what can I learn today from this podcast? And you're gonna learn how to get inspired to resign from your dream business from the yeah to resign for your dream business. Did I say it right, Tami?
Yes. So, how to get inspired to leave your job for your dream business is another way to say it.
That's awesome. So, if we go and start from the beginning, Tami, what would you say to a 5-year-old kid that came to you and asked you, like, "Hi, Tami, who are you?" How would you say?
It's a great question. I have a 6 and an 8-year-old, so I can relate to that.
Good.
So, what I tell them is, I'm a coach, and what I do is I help people who want to do something different figure out how to make a transition, and then how to be successful at it, how to gain that confidence, how to step into their authentic self, and be able to have what they want out of life. And so, they understand the coach concept as we talk about, when you're in sports, you have a coach, and so they can get that and understand what that means.
That's amazing. And so, would you tell or share with us a little bit about your background? Like, what kind of reality did you have in your past that led you to becoming the amazing person you are today and to materialize your dreams?
Yeah, so for me, it all started as a little farm girl up in Michigan. I was raised on a farm, learned the value of hard work very early on, and also realized that I didn't want to work on a farm. And so, I made it my mission to get a good education so that I could have a very successful job because I saw my parents go through, years of having droughts and losing everything, and then going through other years where it would, we would get floods and then they would lose everything from that. And I just realized how difficult it was and seeing my dad put in 16-hour days. And, I learned a lot from that and having to start working when I was about 8 years old and do different things. But I also knew that I wanted to do something that I was able to touch more people and expand more things. So I started out my career as a CPA. I now call myself a recovering CPA. And I've made many transitions throughout my career. I worked in finance to project management and ended my career as the head of technology for the third largest real estate investment management company in the world. And throughout that career, I learned a lot of hard lessons and a lot of valuable lessons throughout the way. And it made me who I was. It made me a stronger leader. It made me realize that I could be an authentic and compassionate leader and not have to fall into the same corporate mentality that a lot of other people do. And so I learned to maneuver my way through that corporate world in a different sense and loved the work that I did. But I also got very burnt out by the politics and some of the other things that were happening in the corporate world, also reorganizations and things. And it just got to a point that I knew there was something more for me. I knew that it was meant to help more people, do more good for the world in a different way. And it was hard to think about, I was at a vice president level, making very good money, but I was just really discontent. It started having an impact on my body. I started, the stress, started having some health issues. had no work-life balance at different points throughout my career. And I started looking at the options and trying to figure out, what it really was next for me. And it was actually through working with a coach and also an energy therapist that I realized, I had always been a mentor. I had always helped people throughout their careers, and that was really what I was meant to go do. And I combine the coaching and the energy work into what I do to have a greater impact for my clients.
That's a really insightful story. I can relate to that. It also happened with me, in a different way, but I know the feeling of being working. We kind of like what we're doing, but somehow we have this side of us that something's missing, right? So
Yeah.
how do we find the missing part? Like sometimes it doesn't mean it has to be growing a business, or does it?
It doesn't always have to be growing a business. Not everybody is meant to start a business.
Yeah.
There's a lot that it takes to actually go out and start a business. So the first step is really getting that clarity. And I have what we'll talk about is the three C's that I call that are critical for, you know, getting clear, getting your inspiration and knowing what you want to do. And that first one is clarity, and really understanding what your vision is and why you really want that. Because until you can really hone in on what it is that you're really meant to do, where that passion is going to drive you, you can't step out and do something else. And that's why so many people get stuck in corporate, right? They're like, they feel like there should be something better, but they just don't know what it is because they have no clarity, they have no vision of where they could go. And so that's really that first step, is getting the vision and getting the clarity of understanding what is meant for you. And it doesn't mean that what's meant for someone else, or what I did, or what even you've done, is right for somebody else. You've got to understand your own strengths, your own skill sets, where your talents and gifts come from, what even what your risk factor is in some sense, and understanding all those different components to be able to determine what that path is for you, and being able to go out there and be able to see it, because that's going to help you get that clarity.
And I see that from my perspective, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that people sometimes they hear about the clarity and what they. Today, there's a lot of like these new energetic kind of spiritual approaches. I'd like to know, like, what's your view on not that, but when people are looking for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I see it, I see a lot of people going after something that's spiritual, and they hoping to get clarity, when in fact they just get connected with maybe something that's divine, or they don't understand. But in the end, they didn't get the clarity they were looking for. I don't know if
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it depends on what you're looking for in your life too, right? So some people are looking for more clarity of who they are, and that's where some of them are seeking that more spiritual aspect of that and going within and above, as I like to say, to figure out themselves. And sometimes that's needed. Sometimes it's more, so there's many different aspects that you might have to find along the way. And I think that where you put your focus is what you're going to get, right? So if you're putting your focus on just trying to understand yourself, getting clarity of who you are, what you are, we all actually do know ourselves. And so sometimes I think we can take it really far. People will spend years like trying to go figure out themselves. But there's a few like little things that you can do that don't have to take years to help you just hone into who you are, so that you can move forward and get the clarity in other areas of your life much faster.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. We don't have to, sometimes we don't have to shoot in all directions, that just have to find the right direction, right? And that's why people need a coach like you, right? To help them understand what they actually need now, instead of
Hmm.
wandering around, like consuming a lot of information that we have available today. And I mean, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't mean it's bad information. Sometimes it's just not the right information for right now, right?
Exactly. So I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of the points that especially when I'm starting people off with a new business or people who are already in business for a couple of years, but they just haven't been making a lot of progress. That's one of the things that we talk about is like, you can do all the right things, but if you're doing them at the wrong time, you're not going to make progress. And so, you see all these different mechanisms out there and, you all these marketing tools and this and that and all these different ways to do things. But if you're not doing them at the right place and at the right time, that messes up how your business grows.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the first things that we talk about, and that's on the business side, but that's even on the life side. Like, if you're not focused on the right things at the right time, then you're going to be spinning your wheels or, wasting time or wasting money on the wrong aspect. And so
Yeah.
it's really critical to have someone that you can, have as that guide in a way to help you through some of those things. So you can learn from their experiences and others' experiences so that you don't make those same mistakes.
Yeah, so that saying of you only know something until you actually live it doesn't really apply in everything, right?
Right. Yes. So you can speed up the time of learning by learning from someone else. And so you still experience in a way, but you can experience through someone else. And there are people who still have to go experience those things themselves
Yeah.
because, they might be a little more stubborn or, a little, they want to like prove it to themselves that it is or isn't the right way. And so there are people who do have to go through that. But if you want to grow and you want to grow fast and you want to grow in the right way, learning from what other people have done and the experiences that they have and having someone else there to guide you is so critical.
Yeah, totally agree. So what's the second C that I got curious about the three C's that you have?
Yes. So the second one is courage. And it's really the courage to make those right decisions and take action. So even when you get that clarity, so many times you still see people not taking action and not doing anything with it, and they'll have an idea that they sit on for years because they don't have the courage to go out and do it.
Yeah.
And so that second C is really finding that courage, getting, once you have that clarity, then going out, taking small steps, little steps, one by one, that will help you build that courage and build even the third C, which is confidence. And the more you do it, the more confident you become. But you've got to have the confidence that you can figure things out, and
Yeah.
that comes from within. Like if we go out and try something and it doesn't work, and we just stop in our tracks, we're never going to get anywhere. Whether that's in our own life, that's in our business and our careers, you've always got to tweak and try again, right? You've got to have that clarity that there's a better way and be able
Yeah.
to have the confidence to step out and try again.
Makes total sense. I mean, um, the the way I see a lot of people not making what I see that happens is basically they get clear on the path somehow or by some reason they don't take action, and then they get
Yeah.
confused again because it doesn't look like it's the right path again, so they get back to the starting point, right? And
Yes.
then it starts a whole new journey just to get back at the same beginning. I mean, it happened with me, and suddenly I was saying, how could I be how could I waste so much time to get back at the same point I was before, because I didn't take
Yeah.
action. So we don't take action, we don't see results. We don't see results without everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's good to have people in your life that, are going to support your vision and really hold you accountable, right?
Yeah.
So like get out there and start taking action and do things because without that, you do get stuck and like this, the hamster wheel just kind of keeps spinning and spinning and there's no exit.
Yeah.
And, that's when that there's got to be a path off and it's finding the right path.
So we got clarity and we got courage. What
Yeah.
comes next? What's the
Oh, the
first
third
step?
one was confidence. So I mentioned that a little bit. So,
Confidence.
that's the
Okay.
confidence to really to stand up, make the right decisions, figure things out, and make it work.
So, how do you look at confidence? Like, I see a lot of people saying that, I don't have confidence. How can I make those decisions? How can I go towards a path or towards an action that I don't feel confident
Hmm.
about? And sometimes people tell me to be confident, but I don't feel confident. So, how can we really think about confidence in a way that we can use it to our favor?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think the way that you think about confidence is understanding where you're coming from and how you want to do something, and the confidence to know that regardless of what happens, you're still going to push forward. You're still going to take that next step. You're still going to get out and show people who you really are, right?
Yeah.
It's the confidence in yourself, not even in, you've got to have confidence in what you're selling or what you're doing, but even that is more of your self confidence, right? You need to know that, for me, I'm providing a service, and that comes with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And so I need to have the confidence to know that the service I'm providing has an impact and it makes a difference in people's lives. Because without that confidence, how are you ever going to actually make a difference in somebody's life, right?
Yeah.
And so it applies to so many different areas, but really owning who you are, being authentic to who you are, and being confident in who you are.
That's a really good insight, um, especially because I see a lot of people struggling to look at confidence. They don't even some people they don't even understand what does it mean because the
Yeah.
projection I don't know, maybe the idea of confidence that we get presented since we're kids is something like super alpha kind of thing, right? That this
Yeah.
is the typical image that we have about confidence is someone that steps into the stage and feels zero fear, zero stress, zero
Yeah.
anxiety. And the fact is, it doesn't really work like that, does it?
Right. No, it doesn't exist, right? So, we set ourselves up for failure because we think that it's got to be when you're at that point that you need all those things. There's
Yeah.
no room for failure. There's no room for error. You can't be stressed. You can't, but that's not the reality, right? So it's really, it's not the egotistical confidence as you were describing the alpha.
Yeah.
It's, that's actually too far where that person is, you know, thinks that they're almost better than everyone. And that's not the confidence we're looking for.
Yeah.
It's knowing who you are, knowing and accepting even your faults and owning those so that you can be authentic and still be able to have an influence, have an impact, and let others see who you truly are
Yeah.
and give back to others. I mean, the egotistical, and I dealt a lot with that in, the corporate world of, the competition that, so many people put on themselves in, I've got to compete with peers or management or, it's like that becomes the egotistical where there's there's a different level of when you're confident in who you are, you don't have to worry about who your peer is or who your competition is because I have groups that I manage that we bring in, I have a leadership coaches forum where it's all leadership coaches and they're, technically they would be my competition, but
Yeah.
I wanted to bring us all together so that we can mastermind, that we can work together, we can learn from each other. And that's how I see us being able to step into that confident role where you don't have to feel like, you can't talk to your competition.
Yeah.
There's somebody who has the same feelings, things that you do, and you can learn from each other.
I mean, it comes from I was recalling something that I used to listen when I was a kid. That was the there's something that is said in Portuguese. I'm gonna try to translate it. There is something like the secret of the business is the soul. Secret is the soul of the business. Is something like this,
Uh-huh.
or secrecy is the soul of a business. And so I remember listening to this and thinking that what about someone that might do the same thing that I do, but does it in a different way? Like technically we're competition, but in reality we don't do the same thing. So
Yeah.
and another question that I get asked a lot about transitioning, assuming that someone gets the clarity, the courage, and the confidence. A common question is, so do I have to quit my job to do that? And like, what insights could you give to someone that asks this in a very early stage?
Sure. I would say, well, it depends. It depends on where you are, what you're really looking for, and what you want to go out and do. I encourage people not to leave their jobs until they actually are clear on what they want to do,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're going to leave and you're going to do something that's not, it doesn't excite you. It's not. It's just replacing the current pain with another pain.
Yeah.
And so, if you can, I mean, there's times when people are in situations at their jobs where they just need to leave, and that's just the situation of what it is. But most of the time, you can take a few months to figure out what it is you want to do, get really clear on that, and then get the courage. I mean, if you step out without having that courage and that confidence and the clarity, I mean, all three of those, it's a disaster waiting to happen because
Yeah.
you're just gonna find yourself back in the same situation. So take the time to go through those steps and do the right things before you jump ship. Before you leave that job. But get the inspiration and learn. Learn what it is. If there's a gap from what you want to do to what you're doing now, go out and start taking classes and learn things on that. Learn to grow.
Yeah. Um, that's actually something that people don't consider. They don't have to quit their job straight away because that's one fear.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's not good to do that because if we do that without having the clarity you were just talking about, I mean, there's going to be an amount of stress that we're going to put on our shoulders because then we have to, find answers, get clarity, and then the pressure starts to go way high, and it doesn't have to be like that, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how do you then, let's see somebody's clear about what they want to do, um, and I want to link this with the leadership part because back in the day I know that leadership was a you either you were either born with it or you're not, and that was the vision, right? But today's is different, right?
Yeah.
So what can we do today for someone that doesn't see himself or herself as a leader, uh, to understand that, well, how can I go from this that I am right now, how can I go from this to being a leader, not just someone that others can follow, but someone that can really inspire and influence them on a level that others can't.
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the things I love to say is we are all leaders in our own way. I mean, if you look at your life, I am sure you find somewhere in some way that you are a leader.
Yeah.
Whether you're a parent and you have kids and they're looking up to you, whether, you've gone through different situations, whether you play sports, there's always a way. You may not always be the top leader, but in some ways, you have been a leader and there are people looking to you for answers,
Yeah.
for something. And so it's really owning those areas of your life that you are, that do come natural to you. Those genius zone areas that are really you're fluent at and you don't have to work hard at. Those are areas that are easiest for you to step into leadership first. But even with people who think they don't have the leadership skills, I actually prefer working with some of them than people who think they like know it all as a leader coming in, because the person who thinks they know it all and they're the best leader ever, they're not going to learn anything, they're not going to change.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who knows that they have something they need to work on, whether it's communication skills, influencing others, being that person that can motivate their team and inspire people. There are so many different aspects, and those are skills that you can learn in different ways. And there are people who are natural born leaders, but they're natural born leaders in certain things, and they also have to learn skills in different areas.
Yeah.
So they might be very inspirational, but they may not know how to lead a team at all, right? So
Yeah.
they inspire by their words, they do different things. So everybody has to learn things about leadership in different ways, and you do that through experience and communication. Everything to me on leadership comes down to communication. And when you can understand who you're communicating with, what their communication style is, what they're looking for, what motivates them, it will help you to be a better leader.
That's actually a very um, innovative kind of approach, because you know I always think about every single industry and area has its own myths, right? So things that people believe to be true, but in fact, like the people that are the best at that, they're going to tell you that's not true, it doesn't work like that. So we have
Yeah.
a very wide group of people following this idea of what, for example, leadership means.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, like, leadership is not just people following us, it's not just um,
Yeah.
paying somebody a salary and then we own them, right?
Right.
This is
Yeah.
a very common one. Like, I hear this a lot. That is, I'm paying you a salary, so you're supposed to do what I'm here, what you're here to do. Period.
Right.
Like, just do
Uh-huh.
it. Don't question. Don't say anything. Like, do you believe there are situations where that can be applied, or is this always a wrong approach?
I mean, there are very few situations where that actually can be applied. So certain jobs where things have to be done a certain way, or
Yeah.
something will go wrong. But even outside of that, my belief is that a true leader is not one who is directing and leading and telling everyone what to do and how to do it. It's one who let their people step up and lead the way.
Yeah.
It's those who, go to their teams and are like, okay, you're the ones doing this job. How can we make this better? Because you've got a different insight than I do. And it's leaders who understand that they need to hire people that are different than themselves in order to get better results for their business.
Yeah.
It's leaders who know that they've got to encourage and motivate their people to grow, to step into management roles, because the only way that they're going to expand their business, they're going to grow, is when that happens. And so there's so many, misconceptions, right, about leadership and management, and what it is and what it means. And when it's applied the wrong way, then you don't want people on your team that are just like, okay, I'm a robot, I just got to go do whatever they say. You want people who are going to be like, hey,
Yeah.
you know what? I just tried this way, and it saved me 30 minutes out of a 2-hour process. Is this something we can implement? Like, that's what I want to say. I want people who are, empowered to
Yeah.
actually improve the business. People who are empowered to show their voice and say what they think, and able to, articulate that in a way to their management team that they don't feel threatened, right? And and that's what true leadership is really about in my mind.
Yeah, I was thinking about the kind of jobs where or the kind of industries where that is um, where sometimes I see people telling me it's very hard to rely on the employees. I'm thinking about, for example, construction. Uh,
Hmm.
so there's the different hierarchy of ranks of people with different responsibilities, and I mean, obviously, everyone assumes that every company has the, the perfect structure where everybody communicates in the right way and integrates with everyone. But I don't believe this happens in most cases, especially in small business to medium businesses. It works in kind of a we have a structure, but we have to go, and things are happening at a very fast pace. And one thing I hear a lot is we don't have time for that. We have to make things happen.
Right.
And like, how can you bring a different insight to these people that say, I don't have time for leadership because things have to be done? And but in fact, they're always in this system of, you know,
Reaction.
yeah, reaction mode,
Yeah.
response mode, like I say, yeah,
Yes, absolutely. I like to say that you don't have time not to focus on it. You know, because by you not focusing on it, you're creating more and more problems for yourself. And you are in that reactive state, and you are constantly just putting out fires because you haven't learned how to address things in the right way and in the right standpoint. And so until you do, you're always going to be in reactive mode.
yeah. So what would be the steps that we can take if we're not a born leader? What would be the steps that we can take to, the first things that we can try or improve or focus in order to become better leaders? Not just in our work, but also in our personal life.
Yeah, absolutely. So the as I mentioned, I think to me leadership always comes down to communication in one way or another. And so learning about how to communicate different communication styles is is really important. Like knowing if I'm talking to someone who's in the exact opposite communication style as I am, I have to know that I've got to address them differently or they're going to take what I say offensively. And so it's being able to understand others in a way is one of the first things I would start with is just knowing who you're surrounded with, how they like to be communicated with, and what you can do to make just small tweaks. It's not like you have to change who you are and what you're doing, but if you know that someone is, like direct communication and they don't want a long story,
Yeah.
and you come in and like give them a long story in an email, and they're just going to be like, get annoyed, right? So
Yes, I'm one of those.
it's yeah. So you got to know, like, okay, if I'm talking to this person, I need to be straight and to the point.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's going to have such a different impact on how they perceive you.
Yeah. I was thinking right now, I am one of those, like when somebody is, the, in the end of the story, they just wanted to tell me it's a sunny day. But
Yeah.
it takes 10 minutes and I start to get frustrated in the conversation, like, can you please
Yeah.
get to the point? Can you please, you don't have to like tell me things by a code like sun is up. No, you can
Yeah.
say, but like the time consuming thing is something that really bothers me. And so you were talking about, I was actually thinking about, sometimes people say that, well, if I act like the other person is more willing to receive, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm not authentic. What would you say? Because this is a very common thing to think and to do.
Yeah.
Like, I am the way I am, and if I want to tell a story, I tell a story. But
Yes.
at the same time, like, it's not easy, right?
No, it's not easy. And you make a really good point. I mean, people do get offensive. They're like, why should I have to change, right?
Yeah,
And it's not about totally changing who you are. You're still getting the same point across. It's about learning how to get that same point across in a way
yeah,
that's going to land right with that person. And so it's more about being able to still stay authentic and, you know, confident, right, in who you are, but not go down a path that's going to almost sabotage you with the relationship.
That's this is actually a very common one because it seems like today there has been a big shift and everyone wants to be authentic, but to a level that even becomes radical, right? So
Yeah.
now we have to be authentic like all the time, everywhere, with everyone, and and
Yeah.
and you know, if like our most pure authenticity, you know, sometimes might be something to be good to think, like if we are alone, right? The person we are
Hmm.
when we're alone is the most authentic, like there's no one there, we don't feel judged, we just do our thing. But if we do that on the outside, like, I think, what do you think? Do you think it's good to consider that other people, it's also good to get other people on our side and to like us, not for the authentic that we don't have, but for the respect that we have for them. What would you think about this?
I think if you're thinking that way, you're too worried about what other people think. You know,
Okay.
if we're focused on everyone liking us, everyone accepting us, you know, there's an underlying concern that we're afraid of not being liked,
Yeah.
or we're trying to please everyone else. And so, you know, there is a balance, right? I mean, there's a balance between being, you know, the complete um, aloof person who doesn't care about what anyone thinks
Yeah.
and is just going to do everything that they want, to being so pleasing and, you know, doing what everyone else wants because they don't want anyone to not like them.
Yeah. That.
So there's definitely a balance that you have to be able to maintain and understand. And I always like to say there's two sides to every coin. So when a coin is rolling and it's, you know, spinning, it's incongruent. It's, you know, it's at the top of its game. It doesn't fall over. It's incongruent. You can either go to one side or the other. One
Yeah.
side is compliance, where you comply with what anyone wants. You do what they say because you're trying to people please, or you just don't want to deal with the ramifications of what's going to happen if you don't do whatever your boss says, or whoever, your
Yeah.
spouse, parents, whoever that is. But the other side is defiance. And so that's when, you know, people go to the defiant side, where they're like, you know, become rebellious. They're don't, you know, just do whatever. And so it's really being able to get to this congruence with ourselves
Yeah.
and who we are, where we don't feel like we have to just comply with everything, but we don't have to be defiant. We just are who we are, and we can say who we are. And it's not that we're like we don't care what people think, or but it's just, you know, I accept myself for who I am, and I accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
And if, you know, they choose to not accept me when I'm incongruent with who I am, then that's on them. It's not on me. And so, you know, if I get defiant and they don't like that, well, there's probably a reason, because you're being defiant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I like to come from with that age.
Great. Thank you for that insight. It's really inspiring. And thank you for your time here today with me, Tami, because I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope everyone at home is enjoying like the amount of value that Tami brought to us today on leadership and all these particular cases that we were exploring, because these seems to be very practical in everybody's life. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if you have any question about leadership, just leave it in the comments below. I'm going to do my best to put on the description of the live video all of the social media links for Tami, and feel free to reach out. And so, this was the Firework Show today with Tami Jaffe. Yes, I said it correctly. So, Tami, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
You too. Okay, guys, I'll see you soon on the next episode, and I'll be bringing more entrepreneurs that are doing their thing by going after their passion. Thank you so much.